Close your eyes for a moment. Welcome home. Welcome home. How does that feel? You can open your eyes again. Unless you want a nap, that's fine too. My first meditation teacher said, doesn't matter if you fall asleep, you get it anyway. So if you want a nap, that's good. I won't take it personally. I've been thinking about this because my mom is coming home today from a fairly traumatic situation. You know, it was touch and go there for a while, and rehab and all that kind of other healthcare time and the world that represents. And, you know, so I was thinking about this coming home and this idea of welcome home. And I kept thinking about it as this, you know, we hear those words a lot, welcome home. We say it here every week, welcome home. And sometimes, you know, we all have this idealistic view of what that means, right? That's supposed to be the warm, fuzzy place. And that's not always the truth, you know? The truth is some of our home lives were not something that we want to go back to. Some people have that experience. I'm not saying that was my experience, but I know that that's true for some people. And we have to acknowledge that when we say welcome home, that could actually bring terror to somebody. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to go back there. You know? But I think that's not what we mean when we say welcome home. When we say welcome home, what we're talking about is that feeling that we want to have, even if it's the idealized situation that we may never have experienced. Where we walk in and there is a feeling of connection and communion and acceptance for just who we are. Now, I've had that several times in my life in several different places. And all of them were quite different. I was blessed by a loving, caring family growing up. And so for me, going home is going home to a loving, caring family who is willing to put up with me being me, in both the good and bad sides of that, without, I won't say without judgment. That might be stretching it just a little much. But with unconditional love. So their love was not contingent upon the judgment they made about my behavior. They loved me regardless of what my behavior had been. And that brings this idea of the prodigal son returning up for me. And, you know, many of us go through our lives and we're raised in whatever our home situation was, whether it was loving or challenging, whatever that was, we take off and we take flight and we go out into the world and we experience the life that we want to experience for a while. Perhaps that's a life of disillusion in several different ways. Perhaps that's a life of materialism. Perhaps that's a life of whatever you chose it to be. But I'm going to let you in on a secret. You're here on Sunday morning. So there's some part of each of us that is yearning to come back to the true home. The home of the awareness of a power that's greater than ourselves, that always accepts us for who we are, who loves us unconditionally, regardless of what we have done, and is always ready to receive us back, if you'll pardon the expression, into grace. The grace of being who we truly are. Individual expressions of that being here right now. So when I think of welcome home, I think of this idea of getting to the realization of moving through all of life's challenges and all of life's glories to that realization of the unity of life itself. That the communion and the coming home is this reflection of an understanding that this is all one happening right now. That the divine presence, which is that infinite intelligence, that ultimate unconditional love that is present and permeating everything, is ours now when we turn our awareness to the recognition of its presence. And that we get those glimmers. I don't know, has anybody ever had a glimmer when that moment when the veil was lifted for just a moment and we felt at home in our own being first? and then at home in the world, because the glimmer opened up a different perspective on all of life and all that we had to see and be and experience. And there was this recognition of the unity of what's going on right now. I've had glimpses of this. In fact, it put me on the path to ministry, was to say that we all have the opportunity for this awareness. And the more that we turn our mind to that awareness, the more we become at home with our authentic self. The more we become at home with being able to express the creativity, the understanding, the love that is inherent in each one of us. Because we all have that ability. And we also all have that ability to turn our awareness from that into dissolution by whatever means you would choose to do that. And then when we do that, what happens, this is my own personal experience, and I'm sure some of you can relate to it, when we go in the direction of self-will run riot, shall we say, and we choose to allow our impulses for self-gratification to rule our existence and our need for fulfillment from outside to make us feel good, whether it is things or activities or whatever path you choose to fill that from an outside source, at some point it begins to feel hollow. It no longer sustains us as an activity of enjoyment, of self-fulfillment and gratification. And this happens to everyone at some point. Now, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people can run really far down that road before it starts to become hollow. And it might be an entire lifetime of running down that road. But ultimately, we are all one. And whether or not you believe in reincarnation, there will be a point at which your soul will push you towards recognizing your unity with life and your unity with that infinite source and spirit that gave us this life in the first place, whether by evolutionary biology or by instantaneous expression of the word, whichever you believe. You know, let there be light. And then 6.5 billion years later, we got around to being here to recognize that let there be light. Or 7,000 years ago, there was a let there be light, and we were imbued with that idea that we needed to understand that we're let there be light. Or we're riding on the back of a turtle. Whichever one you want to believe in. You know, that's perfectly fine. As metaphysicians, we don't have a problem with whatever home you choose to express your experience of life as. That's why we light the flames of faith. Is we truly believe that all of these and more are avenues to the recognition of our unity with spirit. That spiritual home in which we can commune with not only this power greater than ourselves, but with each other, and express that divine love which is at the back of all of this. So I invite you, if you've been out there on the prodigal path, which is fine, because everybody needs everything that they need to do to get to where they are, I invite you to take an opportunity to give yourself a moment to perhaps try to be a little more than that. To extend yourself in love, self-love in this case, by giving yourself the opportunity to stop long enough to breathe and just recognize the breath in meditation. To consider when we pray that it is not a foxhole prayer. Now, hear me out. I'm a great believer in foxhole prayers. I believe they are answered. Every single one of mine was. I can prove it because I'm standing here. Yeah. But generally a foxhole prayer is a prayer that is asking for something outside of you to make you happy in some way, shape, or form. Now, we're great believers in practical prayer, and we believe that we can change our conditions in life through practical prayer and aligning our mind with the good that is available to us and allowing it into our life. And there is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong when you're walking to pray for a car, if that's what you want. There is nothing, I mean, if you pray for transportation, you might just get a bus pass. That'll work too. And it may be more socially conscious if that's what you want to do. In New Jersey, don't try it. It takes way, way too long to get anywhere. If you're here in the city, good idea. But as we pray for things that fulfill our requirements for life to be joyful, to be an expression of good, and those things come pouring in, and we recognize that we have the power to align ourselves with whatever good we want to experience that is not in opposition to somebody else or causing harm to somebody else. It is our right to accept that good into our life and to experience it. Nothing wrong with that. The next level of that, moving towards that journey home, is to stop praying for things and start praying for the power to be something. You see, life is this grand motion of expression that is going through all of this. And as it goes through all of this, we are each expressing our individual part of that. And some part of life, that infant idea that blew up about several billions of years ago, who knows how many, right? And became all these stars and galaxies and planets and things and us, had an idea for each one of us about what is innately ours to express in this life. Our authentic self. We spend a lot of time searching for what that may be, and each of us has an individual expression of that authentic self that can become something greater in our expression of love. One of the things that a practical prayer moved in this direction does is move our consciousness to understand that the gift that we want to give the world is already present within us. It is part of the essence of our individuality. It is part of what we have all of the tools already available to express in life. Yet sometimes we don't see it until we start thinking about, hey, maybe I should be praying about what I can be in the world, for the world. I noticed something when you say welcome home, there's two parts of that. Somebody is saying welcome, right? So there is a giver inherent in that statement. There is an infinite giver that is giving us life and everything that we could possibly think about in this experience. And when we want to be in that communion of home, we also need to be giving of ourselves, that individual light that we are, into our experience of life, so that we can also be the welcomer as well as the welcomed. And then there's the receiver. Obviously, when you say welcome home, you're saying it to somebody. You're expressing an idea that this is a place where you can be you. And that's okay. We want you here. Right? And so there's this opportunity to receive the grace of somebody else's communion, their love, their willingness to accept you just as you are, despite past behaviors, or perhaps current behaviors, or perhaps projected future behaviors. And it's going to be okay. Because home, this ideal of home, is someplace that is safe for us to be us. For each of us to be us, and that it's okay to bring our unique light to the world in that situation. That's a wonderful thought. The activity of giving and receiving all at once in that simple statement of welcome home. And then there's this part about crossing over the threshold. Bless you. Along with the giving and in that channel of receiving, we have to step over the threshold to be in the home. There's some activity that is required of us to receive that good. Because if I open a door And somebody on the other side says, welcome home. And I stand out here. I haven't really gotten into the idea of welcome home, have I? Well, yeah, but not yet. Excuse me, I'm going to stand out here in the cold for a little while longer. No, it's incumbent upon us to take that first step over the threshold, which is getting rid of our small self, our little ego, that's telling us, fear says don't cross over there, you'll lose everything. Pride says, don't go that way. You're too good for that. All of those little ego ideas that bring us to a point of not moving forward in an expression of acceptance and love and humility stop us from receiving the good that we actually say we want. So when in practical prayer and in New Thought in general, we say we have to align ourselves with what we say we want so that we're actually receiving what we want. Because I can make my mouth say anything. You guys know that. You come here regularly. But when my mouth says what my heart desires and my mind has clearly identified as what I want to experience in life, I crossed the threshold from daydreaming into experience. And that is when practical prayer works like that. See, a prayer is really just emotion in mind, going from a place of unbelief to a place of belief in a good that already exists. It's not that we have to create the good. The good has already been given. Everything is possible under the sun. And then some. It's already been given. It is present. It is incumbent upon us to open ourselves to receive the gift by allowing our minds to become cleared of anything that is standing in opposition to that gift. In the case of welcome home, that gift is love. It's that simple. The gift is love. The implementation may be a little bit more difficult. But it is incumbent upon us to remove the blocks in our own thinking that is holding us away from experiencing love and all of the good that goes with that. It is us and it is our responsibility to clear the shadows. Because the shadows do not exist in an infinite good that is all light. The shadows exist in our minds in this conditional experience that we have right here and right now. Our souls, if you will, are immortal. In New Thought, and in Science of Mind in particular, we believe that the soul and the individuality is immortal, ever expanding to a greater consciousness. Ultimately, reuniting with the one at some point. But the individuality stays. That's beyond the dash. I generally don't work with that, right? The dash from when we start to when we end, that's the part I generally work with. Everything else is truly speculation. I believe it, but I don't demand you believe it, because we all have our own speculations. And guess what? We're all going to find out. We will all find out whether we're right or not at some point. But what I do know is that right here and right now, there are principles that I can use with my consciousness to affect my experience of life, to bring about a greater awareness of the love that I have in myself and the love that other people have around me, to bring about a greater awareness of the good that is already present, the prosperity and abundance that is the nature of this experience that is already present, the harmony and peace and love, which is the nature of the divine being in all of its order, which is already present. It is incumbent upon me to saturate my consciousness with the awareness of all of that good and to remove anything unlike that good. Now, has anybody ever experienced that? Because we are about practicality, and I'm going to shut up in just a minute, but I have one little thing to do. I invite you in one area of your life as you go through this next week, because I know we haven't. I haven't met any ascended beings who have personally. They may be out there. As you go through this week, I invite you to pick one little part of your life. Doesn't have to be the biggest challenge in the world. It could be a real easy one. It could be a softball. Whatever you want. Pick one little area of your life and go through the entire week removing all negative thoughts about that area of your life. Just anytime one crops up, say, nope, I deny that thought. I'm replacing it with this positive thought in that same avenue. So we turn our attention from lack to awareness of good. Just try it in one small area of your life that is meaningful to you and see what happens. Because this is about the experiment of our lives. And here at New Thought Philadelphia, we are indeed spiritual adventurers. Welcome home. Namaste. Yeah?
I was just thinking about like when negative thoughts come in your mind, but so much is happening where you're just bound in the political. I don't want to get into detail in the political, but it's just hard not to think negatively of certain actions.
I never said it was easy. I just said it was possible.
I mean, can we condemn not the person, but the action?
If you are thinking in the political realm, as I know many of us are, my suggestion is that you pray for the divine presence, love, and harmony that is present everywhere to appear and evidence itself through and as our political leaders. That's removing the if you sit around condemning, you're staying in the negativity. If you sit around and change that to a positive thought, you're adding your positive thought to God expressing through everything, because I hate to say this, but they be God too. All of those people who we want to say is them, is not them, that's us. That's us expressing a different idea than the one we happen to hold. And the way around that on the individual level is to remove from yourself any negative thoughts, fears, assertions, and replace them with positive thoughts. All of this is working out perfectly for me and everyone I know. The greatest light and love is expressing itself right now through me and everyone I know and see. I understand both the fear and the difficulty in moving beyond fear into a new way of thinking.
And sometimes it's hard not to internalize like other people's negativity too. And I think that's one of my biggest challenges in life, is to not internalize other people's, because there's a lot of negative people around us that want to feed us, you know, whatever thoughts that they have.
But by every avenue possible.
Yeah.
By every avenue possible. Unplug if you can. And don't accept.
Yeah.
I don't accept your words. They have nothing to do with me. I am perfect, whole, and complete. I am an expression of a divine idea right here and right now. I am love expressing on this planet as clarity and order and activity in alignment with my beliefs.
So it is.
And so it is. Namaste. Now I must go because we need another song.